Michigan, when it comes to their sign stealing investigation and scandal, it gets weirder every single day. So apparently, the Big Ten coaches and athletic directors all want Michigan to face some form of consequences. There's no way that Michigan's going to walk out of this thing unscathed. Then the NCAA, from what their investigations have told us so far, they pretty much came out and said that they spent the last couple of weeks on campus at Ann Arbor looking into everything that Michigan has been doing with Connor Stallions getting other coaches to attend games that he's bought tickets for, to record the other teams' signs and logos and trying to find a way to get a competitive advantage. But yet the NCAA says that they couldn't connect Jim Harbaugh to any wrongdoing, which is really weird to me. So you mean to tell me, with you investigating this thing for over the last couple of weeks, you don't find Jim Harbaugh's hands dirty at all, even though he's the head coach? That makes no sense to me. And if you're a delusional Michigan fan, you're going to say, well, Jim Harbaugh didn't know what those guys were doing. Like, that makes no sense. That's bullshit. He's the head coach. When you're the head coach of a football program, you should know everything that goes on within your program and on your coaching staff. So this either means one or two things. Either Jim Harbaugh has lost control of his football team, or maybe this is just a little bit of a cover-up for him. I don't really know how they could be this deep into this investigation, have a bunch of evidence that Michigan was in the wrong of, recording other team signs and using it to their advantage, and Jim Harbaugh not have any say. Like, how does Jim Harbaugh not have anything wrong or any dirt on his hands in this investigation with this scandal? He may not have directly told Connor Stallions to go to the games and, do what he did, but I definitely think that Jim Harbaugh was able to, benefit from having this information. And what sense would it make Connor Stallions buying all these tickets, sending all these guys to go ahead and record other team signs and not use it to their advantage? Somebody had to give, the signs and the information that they gathered from attending these games to somebody on Michigan's coaching staff so they could use it. So you mean to tell me that Michigan was able to figure out what teams were doing, when plays were called, and Jim Harbaugh not being to know about it? So you mean to tell me that they were only feeding the information to the offensive and defensive coordinators? That makes no sense. Like, if you think that Jim Harbaugh's hands are not dirty in this situation, you're really naive. And this is just another example of how the NCAA is incompetent at doing their job. Now, Big Ten coaches, they want not just Michigan to face some consequences from this, but they also want Jim Harbaugh to be punished. Because even though the NCAA hasn't found any wrongdoing with Jim Harbaugh in this situation, the Big Ten commissioner is facing a lot of pressure, according to reports from athletic directors and other head coaches in the Big Ten, to punish Jim Harbaugh for his involvement in this. And if you're the coaches in this situation, you're looking at the NCAA and you're saying BS, because there's no way any head coach could not know this is going on within their program on their coaching staff. And like I said earlier, it either means one or two things. The NCAA is trying to cover up for Jim Harbaugh, or Jim Harbaugh has lost control of this football program. Either one of those two things. Because this makes no sense. This is like trying to say 2 + 2 = 12. You're the head coach. You control who you hire. You assign your coaches that you hire roles. And those coaches have to fulfill their job requirements within those roles. So therefore, Jim Harbaugh, he definitely has a little bit of knowledge, and his hands are definitely dirty in this situation. And Michigan has to get disciplined. Like, I don't get why Michigan fans keep trying to make it seem like Michigan is not in the wrong in this situation. Just because everybody else is stealing signs and you're not the only team that does it, doesn't mean that you shouldn't get penalized for getting caught doing it. You see, other teams are stealing signs, but they're not going about it the way that you did in this situation. You were the team that got caught recording teams with their signs. You were the team that TCU said that, yeah, we had a little bit of a understanding that Michigan knew our signs. That's why we changed them. Purdue's head coach came out and had some harsh criticisms about Michigan's sign stealing scandal. And although it didn't work out in his favor because Purdue got blasted when they matched up this past Saturday, Michigan has to face some discipline. And so does Jim Harbaugh. It's just naive to think that I've been using the word naive a lot. That's become my go-to word to describe this investigation because it seems like there's a lot of naiveness involved in this. And I don't know if naiveness is a word, but if it isn't, I just created a new one because that's what's going on. Some Michigan fans are naive and delusional about this situation, thinking that nothing was wrong, Jim Harbaugh's innocent, and so is the NCAA. Like, the NCAA is already as incompetent as it is already. So what makes you think that, oh, just because they don't see Jim Harbaugh doing anything wrong means that they're right? Like, the NCAA has came on way harder for Jim Harbaugh doing less, and all of a sudden they want to try to save face with him? Like, something is fishy with this. Either Jim Harbaugh is involved in some cover-up, or he just has lost control of what's going on with his program. And if that's the case, if you're Michigan, why would you extend him? Because Joel Klatt, I was listening to him last week when he was on the Herd. He says that there's a good chance that that extension ends up being put right back on the table. Like, this makes no sense. This investigation keeps getting weirder and more confusing every single time new information comes out. This isn't being overblown. This is pretty serious. Like, these coaches are pissed. And I don't think it has anything to do with how dominant Michigan has been over the last 2 going on 3 years. Like, these coaches want a fair advantage. They want everything to be even. They don't want you doing anything that gives you a benefit or advantage over them. And that's why they're upset. And Ryan Day, it's came out publicly and it's been revealed that he isn't involved in ratting out Michigan. So you can scratch that off the list. Maybe it was a bottom tier team that Michigan blew out that ratted out the schools to the wolves. But just to think that Jim Harbaugh has his hands clean in this situation, I have a hard time believing that shit. I really do. You're a head coach. You hire these guys. You employ these guys. You're the CEO of an operation. You know what's going on. You know what your employees are doing. And if you don't, then that just shows that you're incompetent at your job, which I don't think Jim Harbaugh is because he's been one of the best coaches in college football for the last 2 seasons. All right? I think Jim Harbaugh is guilty just as everybody else is in this situation. Now, he may not have been as guilty as Connor Stallions. He may not have known every single thing that was going on in this situation, but I definitely believe that his hands are just as dirty as everybody else. And it's really confusing to me how these Big Ten coaches want him punished, but yet the NCAA can't connect him to any wrongdoing.